All right, everybody, it is a day to get a quote done. Jeep is having some work done to it, so we are headed to a potential pole barn pad build in Little Red. Let's go get this quote going. Well, here we are. We have landed at the potential pole barn pad site. This one's a little different. Most pole barn pads that we do are out in the country, large pieces of property, not a lot of houses around. This one is the exact opposite of that. It's a very nice piece of property. It is an overgrown piece of property. You guys can see where the property owner started clearing it, and he realized if he's gonna clear it, he really needs to get rid of what he's clearing. So he'd have to burn it, and the property line is literally right there. So if he burned it, then he caught that on fire, that'd be bad. So he kind of stopped and decided to review it a little bit differently. He's wanting us to quote clearing the land, which there's not a lot of big stuff. We're used to clearing big stuff. Again, this is the property line over here on this side. You can see there's some medium trees in there, but really nothing major. And that property line runs straight down through here. There's one decent sized tree back there on the back side that we'd have to break up into multiple pieces, but these trees here, I think we'll be able to break them in half and get them shoved down in a truck and potentially hauled out of here, which is something I do have to figure out. However, the land does continuously slope, but as we get down to this back side, the slope does steepen itself up. The goal with this pole barn pad is to have the pole barn front side parallel with the road. Originally, they were thinking the openings, the doors, the garage doors on a pole barn would run perpendicular to the road, but we would only end up with 30 feet in here. And he does have a trailer, and he does have a truck very similar to the length of mine. So 30 feet, a 20-foot truck, and 12-foot trailer, we're already at 32 feet, and you have to come in, make a hard turn in, and then a hard turn towards the camera here to be able to enter into the pole barn. So I think I've got them agreed to turning the pole barn to face the actual road, which let's just assume he has a longer trailer one of these days. He could actually pull up into his driveway and back straight across. Or he's making one 90-degree turn to get into the building, or one 90-degree turn with the trailer if he's backing the trailer into the building. And it just, to me, the access is much more simple. It's a simplified access by making one left-hand or one 90-degree turn instead of two. So we're going to rotate that building a little bit, but as we get down to the back side of this property, I'll show you what I mean by it gets a little bit steeper. You know, this is just a slow slope. Yes, at this point we are 6 feet in elevation change, but once we get back here, you can see it really takes a dive and starts to get even steeper. Once we get down to the bottom, it actually gets to a drainage or a creek, and this property line is all the way back in here. There's a telephone pylon over there on that corner, which marks that corner, and it runs up to the highway. On the other side, there's that big tree I was talking to you guys about earlier. That one would definitely have to go, because this drainage has to stay, but we can carry this contour all the way up to the back side of the building, because long term they're going to want to seed and straw and maintain all of this, and we're going to want to take our dirt from here and transfer it up there to ensure we're not hauling dirt into this place. So we have 90 feet from that side to that side of the property. And then actually, before we walk up out of here, I don't think we're going to take much dirt from this bottom side. So I'm going to start, kind of flattens off right here. I'm going to start right here, and we're going to step this off, and then we'll have to step to the right and step to the top and see how much length we truly have. That's 15 yards. So we're going to call this point right here far enough off the road for the setback, and that's 50 yards. So we have 150 feet by 90 feet, and we're going to fit a 60 feet by 50 feet pole barn pad in here. So we tell ourselves we've got 100 foot of dirt lengthwise to borrow from and bring to the top side of the hill. I know sometimes it's a little bit hard to understand, so I will go back to the laptop for this one and draw out the actual area, and then draw out that 100 feet that we have to work with, and realistically I'd call it 90 feet. So we like to ensure there's a little bit of room on the back side of that building, so that if it does wash a little bit, the building is no longer suspect to, you know, being hindered by the slide. But you guys can see how this ground lays, and virtually what we have to do, if I get right down here against the ground, you guys actually see, you can see to the end of it, and as I come up it starts to kick down and run all the way to that ditch. Again, there's two different angles there, but if we pull from the bottom, borrow pit that dirt probably the full length of the property and transfer it to the top side, we can then carry this flat all the way out to that 50-foot mark. And we have, again, an offset on this county road, so let's step that off and kind of see where we're going to be. Let's see, we need 10 feet, 60 feet, so that's 20 yards. So that puts me right here at this bush, and right there's the road, and then the longer portion of the building will actually run this way. That'll be the 60-foot way, and we can kind of put that in here anywhere. We can tuck it on that corner, we can bring it down to this corner, but all in all, from here, there's that great big tree right there that I showed you guys down at the bottom. From where we're standing right here, plus 1, 2, 3, 10 more feet, all of this area here, once it's stripped, we can take that dirt and transfer it to where I'm standing. And basically what we do have is about a 4 to 5 foot of elevation we've got to bring this thing up to get it to that level that's up there. So that's the boots on the ground. We've got a great review here. We've got all of our dimensions. Now we've got to take it back to the computer, and I will get you guys a much better understanding of the direction we're going to move that dirt, what we are going to clear from a bird's eye view, and kind of show you guys some lines on the earth as to where the building's going to stop, where the setback's going to start, etc., etc. Well, I figured since we were in the area, we would stop by a previous pole barn pad. Let's check it out. So you guys can see the pole barn at the top of the hill here. One thing to keep in mind is this slope carried down, and then it flattened off a little bit, and then it was a steep slope on about middle ways of that pole barn. And we hauled dirt in here, truckload after truckload after truckload, blended all this together. It is a little bit steeper on the left side than what we preferred. However, the property line is actually right there, so we had to be a little careful on this side. But the access is a nice long slow slope coming up into the actual pole barn. He brings trailers and things up in here every once in a while, and everything tied in nicely. But this is a similar type of work in a subdivision, if you will, and that's what we are hoping to be doing on the other side. It's a little bit less steep, a little bit less work because we're not bringing in all of the truckloads. Everything's going to be on site, so it's more work for the equipment but less cost because the material is on site. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. But there's one that we did in 2021. Well, as promised, here we are using Google Earth to give you guys a better visual of this clearing / pole barn pad. This is the property lines. This is your 90 feet. This is your 150 feet. And you got 90 feet down here at the bottom. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger. I can't draw these things perfectly. So we're going to run right down that property line, right down this property line, right up that property line. We will probably leave some vegetation down here at the bottom. This is where that ditch kind of comes through. And then this is the area here that we will actually clear all the way up to the top side. We aren't going to haul loads of trees out, if you will. We're actually going to chip all of this product into the C8500. And then nicely enough, we have a individual that you guys have seen on my channel before, Mr. Medcalf, Dennis Medcalf, Medcalf Construction. He actually lives in this subdivision also, and he's got a use for those chips. So hopefully we, well, I shouldn't say hopefully. Well, I guess I should say hopefully. Hopefully we get this job and we have a local site in which we can take the chipped product and dump it. Now that we are here, I do want to show you guys the actual layout of this thing. If you remember, originally we were 60 feet. We've got a, well, let's not do that one there. We've got a setback that we have to stay off the road, which was roughly in this area. However, we are going to, within this property, 10 foot off the property line on both sides. So we're losing 20 feet. We've got 90 feet in width, which leaves us with 70 feet to play with, and we're going to place a 60-foot building in there. But we like to ensure that there is an extra 10 feet on each side, as I mentioned earlier, of the pole barn, so we kind of have a little area for sidewalks, entrances, man doors, if you will, on this one. But the 60 feet is going to run this direction, and the 50 feet of building is going to run this direction. Again, we'll add 10 feet to that, and we will make a 70 by 60 rectangle. So that building will set in here like this. And to kind of give you guys a better description of the reason that I recommended this individual turn this pole barn, they originally had it the other way, the 60 feet this way and the 50 feet this way, and they were planning on putting their actual garage doors, when I say garage doors, 10-foot doors, if you will, on this side of the building. And you can see this is only 10 foot more. Well, you take 10 foot off of that, there's not enough area in here, as mentioned in the video earlier, that leaves you a 30-foot opening. So you'd have to come in here, which is a 90-degree turn, and then another 90-degree turn. So you're making a Z shape to get in your building, whereas if you put your doors here, you're actually only making an L to get into your building. And if you have something really long, again, as mentioned earlier, you can pull up in his driveway and back across the road, or back up in the driveway and pull into the building, or pull in straight in from the whichever direction you're coming from there. But the real difference here is, on the pole barn you guys saw that we did do in 2021, we actually had to bring dirt in. There was not enough dirt on site to create the full pad. We did cut the bank down. We did utilize as much dirt from the actual property as we could, but we brought in like 50 truckloads of dirt. I mean, it was a lot of dirt. This property here has enough area down in here that we can actually take that dirt, and we would move the topsoil. Oh my goodness, the mouse is going to be funny again. We would move that topsoil in one direction or the other. We're going to call that an arrow. We would strip the topsoil after the trees are gone, bushes, undergrowth, everything. We'll get this thing down to where it's grass, basically. We'd strip that topsoil, and we would put it over here on the edge somewhere or down here in this corner to where we can get behind it after the fact. So get that topsoil stripped off. Then once we get the topsoil stripped off, we will be able to, I need to delete that actually. Once topsoil is gone, we will be able to come in from this bottom side and take now the type of dirt that is good for a pad opposed to topsoil and move that dirt uphill, if you will, in the direction that you see there. And I'll draw, daggone, excuse me, I will draw one more arrow here to kind of give you guys a great visual. That will allow us to bring that dirt, yeah, I spelled that wrong, you guys can comment on that anyway. That will allow us to take that dirt, and we've got two options. We can take the excavator and we can dig it out, throw it up the hill, and then push it, or we can continually push that product up to the top of the hill with the D4 or something similar to the D4, and then the skid steer can be up here leveling it out and packing it in with the roller. So that ensures that we are bringing dirt on site to the actual location that the pole barn is needed for the customer. What this does for the customer is it reduces his cost for his pole barn pad. Truckloads of dirt, the dirt's not all that expensive, but the trucking is what's expensive. And if I was to try to calculate that 6 foot in elevation change that you guys remember, and it started almost where the front of the building is going to go to the back side, if I was to calculate that, I could give you an actual number of tons of dirt, but it's not needed here. So it not only saves straight material cost, is what that ends up being whenever you buy dirt, because you're paying for the trucking and you're paying for the dirt. The customer's got to cover that cost. Here, the dirt is free. Yes, there are more hours on the machines, but you're literally moving it basically 100 feet. You're taking it from the bottom side, you're working it to the top side, and you're constantly pushing that dirt uphill. So yeah, it's harder on the machines. However, cost-wise and being the most efficient cost that we can provide to the customer is bringing the dirt straight up the hill from that bottom side. Now, will I quote in a few loads of dirt? Absolutely. I don't want to get to the point to where I quote this customer a number, we end up not having enough dirt here, and then I've got to have a conversation. Well, we didn't have enough dirt, so we're going to have to buy some dirt, and here's your extra cost. I would rather put in several truckloads. When I say several, somewhere between 5 and 10, because I do believe we're going to have, enough dirt. I just don't know what type of dirt is under here, but based off of what I see growing in there and the type of dirt that I did kick around on the top, there's not a whole lot of topsoil there. I don't think we're going to be taking off a foot of topsoil. I think we're going to be taking off a few inches of topsoil, and then we're going to get down to some good dirt that's packable. And we did do some work. Literally, that other pole barn is just over here off the screen, basically. And it had good dirt on site. It just didn't have enough good dirt. So I am making an assumption that there is good dirt on site. I feel like it's there. If it's not, I'll have that conversation with the customer, and we'll just have to go over that cost, assuming we get the job. But I will ensure that I have some mitigation in this to ensure that if we end up, again, 5 to 10 truckloads short, the cost is there. And if we don't need it, we can reduce his cost by 5 or 10 truckloads, whatever I end up throwing in the estimate, which will make him happy. I'm going to give him a number with that in there, and then if we don't use it, we're going to take that number right back off of there, because we're the type of people that, well, if we can save you some money, we're going to save you some money. And I do like the fact that he turned his building. That actually helps us as well. It makes this side easier to finish, and I state that because that slope runs this way. So this corner would require the same 6 foot of fill that this corner requires. However, we would have had to take in that fill all the way as close to the property line as we could to ensure he had enough area to pull into this side of the building or utilize this corner and get vehicles back there. Now that the entrance is going to be on this side, we will still come out the extra 5 feet, because you gotta remember that's 10 feet total, so it's 5 feet on each side. We'll take that 5 feet out, and then we'll be able to slope it down much nicer to where it's actually maintainable, instead of something that would be steep and you'd have to weed eat and or let grow up to ensure that it doesn't wash out. I don't have any concerns of slides. I know I mentioned that earlier in the video, but I'm really not concerned about slides. But I would be concerned about grass and or weeds, whatever, not establishing themselves quick enough on this side to keep it from washing. Washing being rainwater hitting it and causing the top layers of that dirt to basically wash onto the neighbor's property, which could cause the homeowner more hard conversations. So we're mitigating multiple things there. Better access, less concerns about wash, less concerns about negative conversations with the neighboring property. To me, it just makes the most sense, and also to me, it's the KISS program. Keep it simple, stupid, right? I really like that program. It just, anytime you can access a building in a much more fluid way, you end up utilizing that building more than what you think. Whereas if it's hard to access, you're not going to want to utilize that building, or you're going to want to change the access. And he does not own this property, so there's no way that he could change that unless he purchased this property. And then again, it's a slope. He'd have to fill in this entire area to have a really good access to his building. And at this point, that's just not in the cards. So on this job here, the equipment that I'm going to put on this job is going to be the 120 excavator, the D4 dozer, the Takeuchi skid steer, and the roller. And then the last piece of equipment we're going to need is going to be the C8500. And then a piece of equipment that we don't have that we're going to have to rent is a chipper. So to do this job properly, we need 6 pieces of equipment. And what that ensures is we can transfer the dirt via borrow pit and or pushing it uphill, or both, moving the dirt properly, skid steer to put the rock on. Well, I said that a little too fast. Roller to pack it in lifts to ensure that we have proper compaction. Skid steer to ensure that we can place the rock and smooth it out. And then again, as I stated incorrectly, the C8500 and chipper to get rid of all of the undergrowth, trees, etc., to clear this entire piece of property. Hopefully that helps you guys get a better visual. This is the bird's eye view, obviously, and the boots on the ground. Blending those two together, I feel like it really helps everybody get a really good understanding of what we're trying to do, and the way we review these jobs for our customers to ensure their satisfaction. And if that does not work for everybody, throw some ideas out there. Put some ideas in the comments. What else can I do to help you guys understand these jobs better, other than giving you numbers? I'm never going to give you numbers. I know I've said that before. I'll say it again. But when it comes to visuals, what is the best visual pre-actual job that we can do, or that I can do, to help you guys understand what it is that goes into these estimates? And I do appreciate all the comments. It seems as though everybody really appreciates these estimate videos. No two jobs are the same. There's either going to be a dirt difference, a location difference, different things you got to do to even be able to do the job, different pieces of equipment. And a lot of people might say, man, you can get by with doing that job with a skid steer and the dozer. You don't need anything else. Well, yeah, we can. That is factual. However, the job would not be performed properly. If we were to go in there with a skid steer and a dozer, yep, we could get it done. We could clear it. We could get stuff. We'd have to have the C8500 chipper. We could get it cleared. We could get it built, but we would not have the proper compaction. So if that was to settle after the barn was built, that would cause structural issues with the building. So the roller is an absolute need. Could we move the dirt with the skid steer instead of the dozer? Absolutely. But now it comes down to time. If we use a skid steer, well, it might take a week and a half to get the dirt up there and smoothed out, and we're still not done. Whereas if we've got the dozer and the excavator, we can be pushing dirt with the dozer, and the excavator can be moving dirt for the dozer to move loose dirt, or the skid steer to move loose dirt. So it just makes the job more efficient, which, yep, it's more equipment, but ultimately more efficiency allows a better price for the customer and better job for the customer, which is the most important. We put a lot of quality in our work. We basically tell everyone, you can probably hire someone else cheaper, but I can't guarantee you're going to get the same quality of job. We won't leave this job until we feel comfortable with it, as though it was our own pole barn pad, our own property, our own liking. Mike and I are pretty particular people. And again, if there's anything else that you would like to see, a different way of presenting it, a different way of drawing it out, I don't have any other software. Everything I use is free. I don't like overhead to my business. So as always, like, comment, subscribe.